Hey everyone, welcome to Sidetrack Adventures. This is Steve. Right now, I'm standing on the edge of the Mojave Desert, and today we're going to be talking about a bush. But I promise you, it is probably the most interesting bush around. It was here for thousands of years by the time of the pyramids. It was around when woolly mammoths walked the earth, and it's even almost as old as the Mojave Desert itself. Today, we're going to be visiting King Clone. Depending on who you ask, we are either in Lucerne Valley or Johnson Valley on the edge of the Mojave Desert, about 15 miles from the small town of Lucerne Valley. If there is one thing this part of the desert has in abundance, it's creosote bushes. If you ever look at Google Maps satellite view and just pick any random spot in the area, as you zoom in, you'll see thousands of them, all spaced apart. What is incredible is just how old some of these bushes are. And that's what's bringing us out here, to see one of the oldest living things on Earth. Not a towering redwood, not a coral reef, but a humble, low-lying plant that has witnessed over 11,000 years of history. Down this dirt road, we should find the King Clone Ecological Reserve. We've reached the reserve, and what we're looking for should be just on the other side of this fence somewhere. This fence is here to keep out off-roaders and livestock, but luckily not hikers. At first glance, this doesn't look much different than any other part of the desert, and that's the reason it took so long for people to figure out there was something different here. Creosote bushes are sometimes called greasewood. They're very adept at extracting water from the desert, so much so that nothing can grow around them. It also produces toxic chemical secretions that help keep away neighboring plants, including other creosotes, and repel animals that may want to eat it. Though as we can see, that doesn't stop animals from burrowing under it and using the bushes for shade. Just looking at this bush, for example, you could see all the space around it that really nothing else could grow in. These bushes were also very important to the native peoples of the Southwest, as they were used for medicinal purposes. And in the Thana-Atham or Papago creation legend, creosote was actually the first life form that arose when the earth was created, and from the branches of that bush, the first animal originated. So here's a small example of what we're out here looking for. This bush is probably thousands of years old. The Mojave Desert is huge. It spans over 47,000 square miles across 4 states. Temperatures here can soar past 120 degrees in summer, and rainfall is scarce, less than 5 inches a year on average. So this is not exactly the first place you'd expect to find a living thing that has survived for over 11,000 years. Now, I'm not a botanist, so I'm going to try to explain this in the best way that I can. But King Clone isn't a single bush in the way that you might think. It's actually what's called a clonal colony. That means all the bushes you see in a circle are genetically identical. They are essentially branches of the same ancient being, still alive and growing, just at an unbelievably slow pace. Clonal colonies reproduce by cloning themselves. Instead of dying and being replaced, new shoots sprout from the roots while older parts die off. Over time, the plant expands outwards, sort of like a ripple. With a lot of these plants, you'll see a small opening in the center as it starts to form a ring. They only grow at 0.66 millimeters per year, so those small empty spots in the center took hundreds or thousands of years. But now we've reached King Clone, and check how big the ring is here. Scientists estimate that this particular clonal colony is around 11,700 years old, dating all the way back to the end of the last ice age. With the bush growing at just over half a millimeter a year, the size of this circle is pretty incredible. The British naturalist and TV host David Attenborough did 2 programs on this bush, 40 years apart, and in that time, it only grew by about an inch. If Julius Caesar would have come here, it would have only been about 4.5 feet smaller. Nobody realized this was here until the late 1970s, when a biologist named Frank Vasic from the University of California, Riverside noticed something odd about the creosote bushes in this area while looking at high-altitude aerial imagery. Researchers traveled out here and realized the bushes weren't just random plants. They were growing in almost perfect rings. By studying the growth rate of the creosote and carbon dating the dead material in the center of the rings, Vasic figured out just how ancient they really are. And to make things a little stranger, the majority of creosote bushes found throughout the Mojave aren't clonal and are unique plants. For whatever reason, just a few areas seem to produce these clonal versions. There are a lot of smaller circles out here. We'll have to check back in 11,000 years and see how they're doing. Apparently, there's another bush out there that may actually be older, but it hasn't been confirmed yet. So it's possible in the future, King Clone may be dethroned. Some of the other spots where these clonal versions grow are on military bases, so it's a little harder for scientists to study them if it's on a bombing range or something. And to kind of show how hardy these bushes are, some survive thermonuclear explosions during tests in Nevada. And there's something sticking out of the ground over here. I just want to check it out and see what this is. And it's just a pipe. It looks like it may have been a sign or held some sort of instrument at one point. But whatever it was, it isn't that now. The mountains still have a little bit of snow on them. We haven't seen any animals out here yet, but something big looks to be living under this bush. It looks a little big for a kangaroo rat, but I'm not sure. This looks to be a good snake habitat, so I'm going to take a quick look around to see if I could find any. Somehow, I haven't seen a rattlesnake in years. It rarely rains here, but when it does, the desert has this unique smell. It's kind of hard to describe, but it's somewhat sweet. That smell comes from the chemicals in these bushes. If you've ever been in the desert after it's rained, you probably know exactly what I'm talking about. When King Clone was discovered, it was thought to be the oldest living thing on Earth, but since then some other plants have been determined to be older. There is another clonal bush in Tasmania that's supposed to be over 40,000 years old, and then there are some microorganisms that are said to be millions of years old. The oldest non-clonal tree is also here in California, a couple hundred miles from here, the Methuselah tree, just under 5,000 years old. And it looks like the snakes are still hiding from me. It's kind of incredible if you think about it. Everything in recorded human history has happened during this plant's lifetime. What I really like about King Clone is its story of survival. The Mojave Desert is one of the harshest environments on the planet. Brutal heat, little rainfall, and wild temperature swings. And yet, this ancient plant has outlasted entire civilizations. It's a reminder that resilience isn't always loud and dramatic. Sometimes it's quiet persistence over thousands of years. So that's our look at King Clone. Thank you so much for watching. If you enjoyed the video, please give it a thumbs up. Consider subscribing, and we'll see you next week.